Hey, what's up? We're live.
What's up, everybody? This is a live version. Jack from salesbread.com.
Yeah, renamed recently.
That's right. Jeremy, introduce yourself.
Oh, yeah, of course. So I'm Jeremy, founder of QuickMail.io. I'm sure you know about this.
There you go. And if you dig the podcast or these videos, Jeremy and I made a masterclass on cold email outreach. You may want to check out
Right.
course.quickmail.io. People like it, especially if you want to see like more advanced stuff that's going on to help people get replies.
Yeah,
Course.quickmail.io. Yeah.
course.quickmail.io. There are two things actually interesting. The first one is we had a lot of registrants like the last 2 weeks. Not quite sure why, but that was cool. And the
Right.
second thing is we're gonna start working together, Jack, unless you're unless you're like plugging out at the last second or last minute.
Yeah. Right.
We're gonna be working together, and I think for the people on the course, then we're gonna share a lot about how we are going about things, like doing it live. We figure out why not record it at the same time.
Right. Yeah. So it should be a treat because I don't know, we fancy ourselves as knowing a thing or two about outbound. And so now we're putting our heads together and doing like not just a theoretical campaign, but like I'm going to go in and build the lists. We already brainstormed an A and B version campaign. So yeah, you'll see how we do the whole thing, and it should be kind of involved, and it'll be a fun journey to share along the way of I don't know, my best stab at it. I don't want to disappoint Jeremy, it's a lot of pressure.
I'm a tough cookie. All right, so tonight, today for you, tonight for me, I think we're gonna talk about automation specifically and some of the things to look after. So you may already doing a bit of outbound yourself manually, and at some point you figure like, okay, let's do some automation now. Just because everyone's just pushing toward automation, but there are some stuff to pay attention to.
Yeah, some common pitfalls that you're going to want to make sure you avoid, because you sure don't want to make one of these automation blunders, because they look bad, they kill your chances of doing a deal with that account almost every time. And fortunately, there's kind of checks you can put along the way to make sure that you stay safe as you scale up and start to automate this process here. And by the way, I think Jeremy and I are like pretty strong advocates to not worry so much about scaling right away. You definitely want to have some results doing it the old-fashioned way.
Day one, go for it, full on.
Exactly. So yeah, but once you do start to see some progress, the needle's moving in the right direction. Hopefully this conversation will help you scale intelligently, so it's a smooth process.
Yeah, so I got my list. I bet you got yours too, Jack.
That I do.
Do you want to start?
Yeah, I'll start with the easy one here, and that is do not contact list. Right?
Okay. Yeah.
It's an easy one because it's just a single upload of a file with domains that you don't want to be reaching out to. And people that go on this list are primarily current leads, current prospects, or current clients, or even past clients for anyone that I'm doing outbound for. And that way it's just physically impossible for that individual to get a message from our campaign. And it sounds kind of stupid, right? Like, why would you reach out to a current client? But as you list build, you're going to have current users or people in their world already end up on your list. In fact, that's one of my checks, Jeremy. If I'm doing list building correctly, I want to see a couple of names from the do not contact list show up so that I know I'm onto something. And if that's the case, you definitely want this do not contact list in place to just, I don't know, wear that seatbelt so you don't have that awkward, hey, we're already working together, why are you sending me this email?
Or worse, you could actually be offering like, massive offer, 1 year for free, whatever.
Yes.
And then, yeah, I'll take it. Let me cancel, and then I
exactly
resubscribe.
Right. Shooting yourself in the foot, no doubt. Was do not contact list on your notes,
Yes.
Jeremy? Okay.
There are two things actually. There are the domain. You may want to also do the domain. So, for example,
Right.
it's nice to have,
I pretty much only do the domain.
Oh, you're doing per domain, right? Not per people.
Yeah.
I think
Right.
it makes more sense. So use the domain, and you're gonna also want to exclude your competitors because you don't want them to receive your best copy.
That's
That'd be pretty
interesting.
annoying.
Yeah. So the thing is, like, all right, show me a list of your top competitors. Not everybody listening is going to have that. I mean, be good
No,
research
I
for you
do.
to have, but like, it's very possible that you have some competitors that aren't on your radar. So I actually don't worry about the competitor stuff until I'm doing the personalization. So on the personalization, I'll go ahead and just skip to, I'll skip to number 2 on my list, which is competitors. So given that it's tough to build a list of competitors because you may have some like stealth mode competitors or whatever.
Sure.
I just have a simple rule when I'm doing personalization. It's like, if account is in this space, delete, right? Or even better, just grab the domain and put it on the do not contact. And that way it's like a human being triple checking at the very end to make sure no emails that are pretty good, hopefully, land in the hands of your competitor.
That makes sense. I mean, I do receive from time to time some competitor emails just because I'm in the B2B space as well as I'm in the outreach space.
Yeah.
And of course, you got other, outreach tool that just contact me. And the funny thing is, it always makes me laugh when they actually request like link building. Did I tell you that? What happened recently?
I thought he told me something about being mentioned on a tweet, but I don't remember completely.
So I'm not going to name the other tool, but I knew the founder, and super cool. I like them. I like their team, and I've been mentioning their software and their tool in my own blogs, a few times. Now I know they have their primary business is not exactly what Quickmail does, but they do have like a feature that can, emulate Quickmail. I see you smiling. I'm sure you pretty much know what I'm talking about. Anyway, so I like them, good conversation with them and so on, and mentioned them plenty of times on my blogs already. And so one day, I think their new marketing person reached out to me, totally automated, like 100% automated. I could smell it from miles away. But I know the tool, I know the founders. They're pretty cool dudes, and so I just reply and I say, hey, great to see that you're starting your at this job. How's it going? Blah blah blah. And then I say, yeah, for the link exchange, like, yeah, no problem. Happy to to link them. Would you be so kind to sort of reciprocate, right?
Yeah.
And the answer blew me away. It was something like, oh yeah, thanks, whatever. And then at the end it was like, here's the link as to why we don't reciprocate links. And that was a link to Ahrefs, the sort of authority in the SEO world, that just basically say, you shouldn't necessarily do, link for link exchange. And I was like, seriously? Oh no, I'm sorry. And they proposed me, or they offered me in exchange, something that is worth like literally $5. I was insulted.
Right.
I really was insulted. So I say, that's fine. I went through all my website and removed all the links to their software, every links. And I say, no, that's fine. You can link me back because I removed all your links. Like, what the fuck?
Burn, baby, burn.
Yeah. I mean, come on. You shouldn't do that, right? It's like, it has actually a negative effect. Not only the campaign wasn't that, great from an outreach standpoint, if I didn't know them, spam, or actually, my spam folder, my
so I'm just trying to loop this back into how this relates to the do not contact list or the even competitors, right? I mean, I suppose if they had you on that do not contact list, they wouldn't have lost a link or two. However, I don't know, looking backwards, was there anything they should have done from maybe a automation checkpoint
Yeah, totally. I wanted to circle back on this one. I think
Yeah.
it's kind of useful to maybe cross with your own contact list, like people you already had a contact with before. I think there are plenty of
Right.
tools where you can extract all your contacts from your past history of emails,
Right.
and at least just flag them and say, well, should we do anything with those, or
Cool idea.
stuff like that. I would
Love
definitely.
it.
You're going to automate your outreach to plenty of people. Well, automate as well the sort of like um, verification, or like and at least flag them, so at least you can just go ahead and give it like a second pair of eye.
Cool. I'm into it. Okay. Shall we move on?
One more thing, actually. People seem to enjoy me digressing because we got like plenty of viewers now.
Nice.
But it reminds me about PayPal. PayPal was having a hard time going against fraud. And so they tried every automation they could. Well, human worked, but they couldn't keep up. Automation was covering a lot of ground, but got it false many times. And sometimes, things were too late. So instead, what they decided is to go a hybrid approach, which is, and I know you're going to be a big fan of that, Jack, because that's what you're doing already with your list building.
Right.
But basically, they went for a sort of hybrid thing where they sort of like automate a lot of things and only flag for human to check when there is thing that is out of the norm. And I think the same for you when you're doing your list building. You got a second pair of eyes for the LLC and stuff like that.
Right. And I'm even thinking like scoring leads. Let's say you're going after financial advisors that focus on retirement, right? You may build your list of accounts and then crawl back through them and make sure the word retirement is mentioned on the site, using technology, right? And if the accounts that don't have that keyword, you may want to have a human being double check that that's actually a good fit or just maybe a complete waste of time, right?
Yep.
I do like the human and technology working together. It's not, we're talking automation here, but sometimes, even the smartest fix is remembering that we can always use a team member when it's called for. Okay.
All right.
I have the next one here, and that is making sure your merge tags are set up properly. So merge tags. So I like using role a lot. So reaching out because you're the founder or marketer or whatever. It's just like a really basic way to personalize. Sometimes I add the plural form of the job title. So it's like looking for digital marketing consultants or whatever, and you can tailor that based on a couple slight changes in a campaign. But the thing is, if you incorrectly label or match those merge tags, forget it. It screams automation and you did a bad job. And it stinks because you put a lot of time into the spreadsheets to personalize it. So an easy check is just go through each prospect and put an eye on the campaign and just make sure that you've got the right merge tags labeled. So that's part of like our checkpoint, is like before a campaign goes out, just scan, do a preview on every single one, and then you
go. I like that. It's almost like too quick to make massive mistakes. So it's like you're in a car, you're going at 10 miles an hour. That's fine. Something comes up. Okay, you can move around and stuff. But if you're like 100 miles an hour, 200 miles an hour, and something comes in, it's going to take a lot of ground before you can actually brake or do anything.
Right.
And it's the same with automation. You're going to waste a lot of leads. So imagine if all your leads, cost you, I don't know, like 10 cents a lead or $1 a lead, whatever you're doing, maybe 5 if you have automation. You may actually spend a lot of money just because you, in quotes, were too lazy to double check or make sure, you were too eager to. And actually comes back to my point, is like a 5 minutes, like, oh, let me just send that, I just really want it. Like, I'm just going to do it quickly. I've only got 5 minutes, but, let me just send that. May actually lead to, a big mess down the line,
It's very true. Yeah, I mean, before we jumped on this, I was in
I
QuickNote
know.
checking a couple of things, and I was like, "Nah, we're gonna wait on this." Okay, but that's basic. So I know in QuickNote you can have like default. If the merge tag is not there, if the attribute's not there, what should it say instead? That's kind of a nice like fail safe in case you happen to get to a row in the spreadsheet that it just doesn't apply. You can't find anything for, let's say, a PS, and you may want to leave it blank or just say PS something, I don't know, like PS didn't find much on your LinkedIn profile, that I could comment on, or it didn't find much on your background would be interesting. Do you have any other social accounts that you're more active on, right? Okay, so that's it for me. We'll call it merge tags for number 3.
Yeah, and
What
my
else you got?
recommendation actually, or some takeaways from this, is always, always, always send yourself test emails, right? So you build your campaign, you think all your merge tags are properly set and so on. Just send yourself a test email. Every time I do that, I send myself a test. I look at the campaign. It's like, yeah, looks good. I'm loving it. I'm ready to send, but I just give me like 5 minutes, and I force myself as a discipline. Let me just send myself a test email. And you guess it. Every time I do that, I'm like, I'm putting myself in the shoes of the recipient, because suddenly I receive the email, and I'm like, yeah, maybe I'll tweak this and that. And then I come back and then change it. And every time it happens to me. So do not hesitate to spend 5 more minutes. Send yourself the email. You may actually not regret it.
Good point. Let's move on. I've got name next on my notes here. So this is both for the business and for the person that you're reaching out to. So this is so obvious, but I have to say it. If we're talking about making sure you don't look kind of like a bonehead when you automate your emails, you need to carefully look at the first name and the company column to make sure those names are right. Company, straightforward. You don't want Inc. or LLC or an Amazon company, right? Or what?
GmbH for German-speaking companies.
Right.
SARL for French-speaking companies.
Exactly. So just flat out remove them. A nice little hack for my Python developers out there. There's a library called, I think it's Nameco or CleanCo. And it'll basically run through a list of company names and do a pretty damn good job of trimming them down so they're ready to send. But again, take some manual effort to double check. And then first name, like before you kind of think it's just way too obvious to even mention here, it's like there's a lot of names that get jumbled up if you're using like name splitters, like Phantom Buster, for example. They're not going to get it right all the time, especially if it's like doctor or they have like CPA in the name. So you could end up saying like, hey, J. Dr. Jones, and so it's obvious, but I got to say it, make sure your names are right.
And this is an interesting thing, because when we're talking about automation, Jack and I are not talking about like 10,000 prospects every day. We're still talking like reasonable. So if you think about it, there's multiple levels of abstractions and multiple levels of automation. The first level, when you're doing it yourself, is going to be very painful, and it's going to take a lot of time because you need to make sure your data are correct, craft the actually be in the operational side as well. But when you're actually going to do for automation, the goal is not to press the button and then everything happens. The goal is just that you can move up to the reviewer level, right? Where you can effectively review things and let the computer actually do the operation. So what I mean by that is you're probably going to end up with maybe 20 contacts a day or 200 contacts a day, but that's still a level at which you can afford quickly reviewing things. So I hope that you're not thinking that, oh, I'm going to do automation, which means I won't have to do anything. Because if you do that, you're going to run into a lot of mistakes. So instead, think yourself as a reviewer now. Let's say someone else is doing things. So you sort of like outsource the job to the computer, and then you just, quickly give it like a quick run through, make sure things are okay, and then you say like, yeah, that's good to go, and
Right.
from there it goes. Yeah.
And yeah, in the meantime, you can focus on better ways to build a list, or better ways to write the email, or more merge tags that you can test out, more audiences you can approach. Yeah, you can do kind of the fun stuff, as opposed to like the hard but essential tasks involved towards making sure that campaign is executed properly.
Yep.
Anything else on name?
No, I think it's a great comment.
What do you got next?
Okay, what I got. So make sure you vet your list. We said it. Oh, I got some other stuff that are not so obvious, but automation enable you to do some stuff you will never do. And one of the things is make sure you still emulate human activities more than actually computer activities. And I'm talking, for example, make sure you have a minimum delay between all your emails that is big enough so it doesn't actually harm your deliverability because it's too obvious it's a computer that does it. And there is plenty of things in this category. There is also make sure this is not the same boilerplate templates with almost no customization that goes out every time. So everything that sort of signal this is an automation should be sort of like reduced or minimized as much as you can. So try to stay as close as possible as human. So human doesn't send every 30 seconds. They don't always say the same thing. So, vary a little bit. So use A/B testing or different variation within your emails. Make sure you have variable times between the emails you're sending. Make sure you're not sending at 2:00 in the morning. Those sort of things. Try to match as much as possible a human doing the work, right? That will be the other advice I'll have when you're going for automation.
Really good points here. I have something that maybe fits into this where you still emulate human activities. So talking about timing, adding customization here, but this one's weird, but spelling, right? So
make mistakes.
Human beings make mistakes sometimes. You want to make a message.
Only the sloppy one. I never make any mistake, Jack. I'm sorry.
Okay. I'll go back through my email threads. I'm going to find one spelling error. Yeah.
Just look at the last email I sent you,
Yeah. No, but okay. So I'm not sure if I'm here saying it's a good idea to make a spelling mistake, because I don't think I am. However, a lot of times I will write an email that's formatted kind of like I wrote it on an iPhone, meaning it's all in one line and it's very short. And maybe I didn't remember to capitalize the start of a sentence. And I play around with things like that, because then you're going into the world where if you have that plus personalization and it doesn't even look like you were sat at a keyboard to type it out, I don't think you'll be able to know if that was automated or not. And that's the right direction you want your campaigns to go. We've had, I think when Pep was on the show, Pep Laha from CXL mentioned that if there was a formula for writing a subject line that he would for sure open, he said one word, lowercase, ideally misspelled. And it's because no marketing manager is really going to sit there and screw up on the subject line, but a human might.
Yeah, that's an interesting thing. Is like, would you actually have an email from a proper marketer actually having mistakes on purpose? Never, right? Or
on purpose. Right. I can't be the first guy to think, hey, let's throw in an error in order to humanize it. True. I'm sure somebody has. But that's all I have to say on spelling. I will say, never make a mistake on grammar, though. Spelling you can get away with. Grammar I don't, because if it sounds like someone not native to your language wrote it, wow, you will never get a reply. Never, ever. So
product just like buy, please now.
Even if it's nice, like a nice idea, but it's not good English, it won't work. So
yeah, we actually pull up somehow, right?
Well, it's probably not from a native English speaker. And if you're saying you live in Ohio, well, that's kind of breaking that concept. So we actually have like a proofreader who's just dedicated to checking all the personalizations, which is pretty cool. She's great.
So here's a question for you, Jack. Do you think with automation there is more process that needs to be in place around
Oh my
automation?
God, yeah, absolutely. It's insane. But once you get there, it's pretty cool. Um, but it's really hard to I don't know, you got to have people in place, right? Someone to personalize, someone to list build, someone to check, someone to proofread, someone to send it, someone to double check before you send. I mean, there's a lot of steps involved. I like Notion for keeping all the processes
Yep,
in one
plus one.
place. You told me about that. But yeah, it's hard work for sure. But when you get there, it's very fun. Then you can really scale and do the fun stuff.
Agreed.
Okay, so we've covered 6 things. Taking notes here. You got another one on your list?
All right, let me check. I think we covered them all, but let me give a last run through. Yep. No, I think we're done.
Okay, I've got 2 more that I want to get to, and
We've done all mine.
this is nice. We're on the 25-minute mark. We'll probably wrap up at about 30, but before we press record, we were talking about this one, Jeremy. It's following up on colleagues that may have already replied.
You're right. This is an automation problem. You may effectively send to 5 people, and then you would never, as a human being, carry on the 3 others if the 2 others told you we're not a good fit.
So even worse, what if you reach out to 3 people in a marketing department, right? And one of them says, "Hey, this is pretty cool. Let's have a chat." And then you leave the others on the campaign. That's kind of weird, like, "Hey, I'm already talking to you," or "Hey, you can stop reaching out to our colleagues now." I mean, people know the game, I suppose, but you're going to want to add new leads to your DNC, just as they come in.
Yep. It's a really good point.
Simple. Okay. I have one more.
Yeah, what's your last one?
My last one is check those titles. If you're ramping up, doing automation, you may find yourself building lists like based on title keywords, like, oh, I'm going to find CTOs, and you end up with this huge list, but maybe 10 of them, their titles say retired CTO or CTO parentheses retired, or I like this happens pretty frequently, but you may be building a list of marketing directors, and you need to distinguish like freelance marketing directors or marketing consultant, right? Those are keywords that you probably haven't thought to exclude from your list, but certainly they're a bad fit. Board members can probably throw that off, like, or even better, like reaching out to developer intern, like just a couple of negative keywords that before you automate everything, just make sure you remove them from your lists. And if you're building lists with Sales Nav, you'll be able to add or you'll be able to exclude keywords. So that's where I would add it, so they don't even end up on your list in the first place.
There's a sort of theme that for me, I see like 2 things. The first one is like, you don't need to automate everything at once. That is like, you're talking about list building, but maybe you just want to automate the campaign side, right? So you can still do, manual research before you figure out, oh yeah, this seems to be the sort of process I'm doing to find the leads, right? So there's like the scope of the automation, which is like, do you take the prospecting and the campaign and the reply and, whatever. And the other one is, make sure you're reviewing things, like, don't let it run wild, especially at the beginning, because you're going to learn from those. Oh yeah, I forgot to remove all the LLC, or, oh yeah, I forgot to remove those retired CEO, So if you do those 2 things, then I think you're going to have an easier time, and potentially you'll be able to put more things in place and more processes to actually reach to the holy grail of automation.
That's a really good point. And I think, do yourself a favor, and when a problem comes up, solve it once. Meaning, when you see a problem, go ahead and just go back to your process, kind of your list of order of operations here, and write down the issue that happened. Even if you're doing it, it'll be really helpful to have this ever growing, more and more finely tuned process in place that maybe eventually you can hand off. But it would be a little bit frustrating to have the same issues come up every couple of weeks or so, right? So help yourself out and document things, solve problems once. It's been like a nice thing over here.
That's your motto, right?
Yeah, I like it. I like it. Thanks to Notion,
Awesome.
because that's like great stuff.
That's it. We got nothing else for you.
We did it. Yeah, nothing
We did
else.
it.
So nine things I counted. Let's do a quick review here. Make sure you have your do not contact list in order. Number 2, that should include competitors. And if you don't have a competitor list, make sure that's a step in the process so a human can catch them and remove them. Number 3, using correct merge tags. Double check it, send yourself an email, and it would be helpful to have a default placeholder if you don't have a merge tag for that row. Number 4, name properly. First names and company names got to be perfect if you want that response. Number 5, make sure you still emulate human activities. Emulating human activities. So timing should be varied. Keep that personalization going on. Leading us into number 6, which is spelling. I don't know, play around with one error, see if it makes a difference. Maybe not. Grammar, number 7, has to be perfect. 8 is following up with colleagues when one of them already replied. You're going to want to not do that. And finally, 9, make sure you got those excluded job title keywords so that you reach out to the right people, even though they may seem like they're accurate. Yeah. All right, that's it.
That's awesome.
Thanks, Jeremy.
Good summary. I'm glad you're keeping track.
Somebody's got to. All right, guys. Well, thank you for this. If you want more, check out course.quickmail.io. There's some good stuff there, and we have a pretty darn good money back guarantee. So take us up on it. Jeremy, great cast.
Yeah, great catch, Jax. I enjoy it. And final thing, actually, if you want to send us an email about like, hey, you'd like us to discuss about XYZ, I think we still have the email podcast@quickmail.io. It doesn't matter if you're looking on YouTube or on Facebook or other channels. Just send us an email, podcast@quickmail.io, and Jack and I will receive it.
Awesome.
All right.
See you, Jeremy. Bye.
Bye. Catch you later, Jack.